It is the future, and there's not many men left that are fertile. This is a crazy universe, and one which Sam Hell walks daily, hounded by women, because he's the only one that can continue the human race.
I'm sitting here waiting, contemplating what's the best day. Watching action movie on the Lethal Mullet.
Yes, folks, on the Lethal Mullet. I'm your host, Adam O'Brien, and welcome to episode number 107 of the Lethal Mullet Podcast. I'm your host, Adam O'Brien, and here tonight we're going to be looking at an amazing Roddy Piper classic coming in the wake of the amazing They Live. Of course, that film he did, of course, with Keith David, and of course, directed by John Carpenter. And of course, Meg Foster in that one as well. Amazing bit of science fiction action from the mid-80s, along with now 1988's apocalyptic sci-fi mashup classic post-apocalyptic fiction. Of course, of Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's a film that's a part satire, part action movie, part science fiction, part wanting to be a Mad Max with Ninja Turtles. It really is a bizarre but funny film, and it's even got a sequel out there too, folks. Starring Roddy Piper himself, Sandahl Bergman, William Smith. Yes, William Smith, folks. The one and only father of Conan the Barbarian. Nicholas Worth from Darkman. Brian Frank, and of course, many, many others. We're going to go into that and more here tonight on the one, the only Lethal Mullet Podcast. G'day, mate. How you going? Welcome to the Lethal Mullet Network, where you'll find all these amazing shows and more. Where you'll find the Lethal Mullet Podcast, a celebration of action cinema from the 80s, 90s, and beyond. You'll also find Making Treks, a Star Trek fan podcast, where I'm joined by my amazing co-host Mark Newbold into a deep dive of Star Trek. You can also find Mulleted and Kilt, a look at music, where I'm joined by my dear pal Darth Elvis, and where you can also find the Mullet Guild, a look at the Dune universe. All here on, of course, lethalmulletnetwork.podbean.com, or on your favourite podcatcher. You can find us there. You can also find all these shows a week later on, of course, the one, the only Fandom Podcast Network, FPN, on fpnet.podbean.com. Don't forget to also follow us on socials. There's, of course, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the handle at the Lethal Mullet. We'll catch you out there and enjoy your action cinema.
Oi, Hajime. Yeah.
Welcome to the dojo. Leave your shoes outside the door.
Alright, folks, as a bonus tonight here in the dojo, we're going to look at a film we promised to review for you a little while ago, but many guest appearances from others on the other channel, Fandom Podcast Network, sort of put this to the wayside. But we're going to do it tonight as a bonus. So we're looking at 1985's Sho Kosugi classic. And this really is a classic of B-movie and also of action movie history. This is called 9 Deaths of the Ninja. It's 1 hour and 34 minutes of the most full-on Sho Kosugi ninja action you're going to get. He's a real James Bond in this, of the ninja sort. Sho Kosugi plays Spike, and along with Steve and Jennifer, they rescue a busload of tourists who are kidnapped in Manila in the Philippines. This is an amazing little film with some amazingly huge, and I mean huge, theatrical weapons. Some from the ninja variety and some from the firearm variety, folks, which are, you just have to see to be believed. It has a rating of around about 3 out of 10, or basically 30% out of 100. Yet Amazon has got a review of 4 out of 5. And You know what, folks? Just for the ninja flavor, particularly the 1980s ninja flavor from Sho Kosugi himself, I've got to give it that too. Let's have a look at the cast, folks, first. Some names you know, some you will not. So let's have a look at it. And you're going to be quite amazed who might just be in this that went on to bigger things. Much bigger, even bigger than Sho Kosugi. So, in Nine Deaths of the Ninja, we have Sho Kosugi playing Spike Shinobi. Brent Huff playing Steve Gordon. This is the man with the Gatling gun that's just, well, you got to see it, folks. Go and watch the trailer on YouTube. We have Kane Kosugi playing, guess what? Kane. Amelia Crowe playing Jennifer. Shane Kosugi playing Shane. You got to remember, Shane Kosugi always brought in his sons to play roles, and of the sons, Kane's definitely gone on to work a lot more in the martial arts field in Ninja 2, along with, of course, Scott Adkins. So, big props to, of course, Kane for the amazing work that he's done. We have Blackie Dammit in this, Vijay Amatraj, Regina Richardson, and here's the one I want you to define, folks. You ready for it? Ken Watanabe. That's right. Ken Watanabe. Can you believe it? That's right. Obviously, he's gone on to much bigger things, working, of course, with Christopher Nolan, with the Batman films, and, of course, Inception, and, of course, many others. And also, he's worked, of course, in my favourite role of his, playing Katsumoto in, of course, The Last Samurai. Such an amazing role from an amazing performer. He's done an amazing job over the years. But, yeah, so this is what he was doing back in 1985 alongside these guys. Amazing. Now, one of the names here you may not realise, Blackie Dammit, is also the father of a famous musician you may know. That is, of course, and you can tell by the face, he even looks like his son. We're talking about, of course, Anthony Kiedis of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Blackie Dammit was the father, of course, of this amazing singer-songwriter, you name it, cult figure. He's definitely one of the greatest musician writers out there, along with his band, of course, Red Hot Chili Peppers, with Flea and, of course, Chad Smith, and, of course, also the one in the alley. Well, actually, it's been a number of guitarists, so you'd have to name all of them. But, of course, Hillel Slovak, Dave Navarro, and John Frusciante. So amazing writers. And, of course, yeah, so he's in this film as well. He was an actor back in the day. He's past since, so, again, great talents to go and check out. Now, the film itself definitely has that flavour of kind of the men on the mission, people getting together to try and do the Delta Force style thing. But the great thing about this one is we get to see Sho without the full ninja gear. Doesn't have to wear it all the way through it in this. He's definitely doing more along the lines of a James Bond-like figure, but a ninja one. And that's what I like about it. So he's using some really different weapons. Shurikens are still in it. All that sort of stuff's in there. But he has a sword in this, which is really interesting. Now, if you've seen his channel, he's been showing some of these weapons off on video, as they are now. One of them, of course, is a sword that's part tonfa. Now, tonfa, of course, is the baton from the Kabuto styles, or the Okinawan weapon styles, which fits under your arm, very much like the nightsticks used by the police in, of course, the States. Out here in Australia, we do not use these. So it's part baton, part blocking weapon. But for this one's really interesting. He has a steel tonfa with a steel blade attached to it, which falls under the arm, and then when sprung into action becomes a full-fledged sword as well. So if anything, I think a certain Star Wars film, which introduced this sort of style of sword and baton into the Stormtrooper lines, of course we're talking about The Force Awakens, has a lot to do with looking back on this film in particular and this style of weapon. But apart from that, this is pretty much along the lines of a very cheap and, if anything, a B-grade attempt to capture that sort of energy from Delta Force Commando with a ninja twist. So I still love it. It's got a certain passion for the style it wanted to be and vice versa. Folks, this gets a whopping 3.5 out of 5 on, of course, the Hallenbach scale here at the Lethal Mullet Podcast. Mate, how you going? Come on in, mate. Yeah. What shall it be?
Oh, man, it's been a real busy day, you know? Oh, wow.
Right,
yeah.
mate.
Yeah.
It's just like I was telling my mate the other day, right? Not having nice, cold beverage and chatting about, films and all that sort of stuff. You know?
Well, here you go, mate. Here, enjoy this beverage and enjoy this film chat.
All right, folks, here we go. Talking about, of course, Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's a 1988 film. We've already talked about what it's about and what it's like. Well, let's just put it this way. It's Mad Max meets the Ninja Turtles, kind of. Well, it's about frogs, not turtles. It's a film that was created by Donald G. Jackson, and it's a film that was written by himself and Randall Frakes. It was directed by Jackson and R.J. Kaiser, and obviously Roddy Piper is the lead. We've got some great character actors in this as well. We have from Conan the Barbarian, Sandal Bergman, Cess Verrill, and we also have William Smith from, guess what, Conan the Barbarian. He's the guy that says, "Oh, Conan, I'm going to teach you the riddle of steel." That's right. He's, of course, Conan's father, and of course also starring Rory Calhoun as well. Now, this is a great little flick which, come in the wake, of course, of They Live, which really put Roddy, especially outside of his wrestling character, really put him on the map. And I think showed, what I've talked about with him as an actor is that there's a certain honesty and reality to the way that he portrays things, because he's had that sort of tough, rough life. He's somebody that's really lived a life outside of the public eye. Somebody in his own private life, really, I think, bring some of that to his performances. And that's what he did. He's such an amazing talent. And, I'm so sorry that he's passed now, because, I can just imagine the audiences now, even back then, really appreciate what he was putting out as far as performance. I'd always been a fan of him as a wrestler, playing, of course, the character of Roddy Piper. And again, he's someone that, was a villain in the wrestling world. So, out here in Australia, it's followed just as much as anywhere else in the world. Massive franchise, the WWF back then, now the WWE, obviously. But what I loved about it was, again, there was a real energy to this guy. He really, as big as he was, he had that energy of a young kid. He just wanted to keep doing whatever it was, and go at it 100 mile an hour. And you could see it in the performances that he does. There's that energy. They Live showed us that. In that one, he's obviously playing off some really good actors. Keith David, Meg Foster. There's a lot of great talent. So usually working alongside, of course, the amazing director John Carpenter. And, that was a great flick, which I know we've got 2 sequels coming, folks, that John's working on now. They Laugh and They Love. Again, not quite going to be the same style. It's going to be different. Knowing John Carpenter will never be boring. This film came out in January 1988 in the US, and I think worldwide, if I remember. And again, it was, a little bit harder to find here in Australia, even back in those days. On VHS, I'm pretty sure we had a later release. I think it was like 1989, or it might have been even 1990, which is not often heard out here in Australia. It happens with a lot of these releases. Again, distribution, it is what it is out here in Australia. But I tell you, with the advent of streaming and all that sort of stuff, that's been a little bit of a less problem, particularly with Tubi channel, TUBI, folks, TUBI. Get on the web, check it out, free channel to download, or in this case, stream films from. Lots of great classics on there. You'll find Hell Comes to Frogtown on there as well. You'll find also some great, fantastic action films, particularly some of the Sonny Chiba classics are on there as well, so go and check that out. It's enough of a promo for them, I think. Enjoy it. It's great. Streaming really has opened up a lot of those possibilities for us all. But what's great about this, it has a tone of Mad Max, which I really appreciate. Particularly, that is our Star Wars out here, folks. That amazing series really knocked it on the head when it came to getting the right flavour and feel of, science fiction in a post-apocalyptic setting. And folks, Fury Road's still the best film that was ever made. That it will be ever made, because it's just the best. So let's go into, before we get into the cast further, let's talk about the film itself. So this is set in a wasteland, a post-apocalyptic universe where fertile men and women exist. Few fertile men, I should say, because it's only a few, and women exist due to atomic fallout. So this is something that drives the film, and in some way, it also drives some of the comedy in it as well. The government itself has a huge search going on for basically the rights to find men who will be able to breed with obviously the human race and keep them going. This is where, of course, Sam Hell comes in. So we get to see a little bit of a prologue as the movie starts, where we get to see a group of the frogs, or in this case, we don't really know because we don't get to see the actual the outfits just as yet. But you basically get an idea that they're trying to slave out fertile women, use them as sex slaves and stuff like that too. So in this, Sam Hell's kind of the Mad Max in this universe. He's a warrior, a traveller, who's basically going from one city to the next, but he's captured by the authorities. In this case, these nurses. Now this is, of course, where it gets interesting, because they find out that he is fertile. So this is a great part of the plot. So the idea is to basically use him to breed the human race. And of course they need to find out the trail of a pregnant woman that was left basically in the wake of where they were and all that sort of thing too. And what's great about this too is that in this journey we have Sandal Bergman in it along with him. Plus, you also have an escort in this to Spangle, which is Sandal's character, played by Cess Verrill, who plays the character of Sentinella. And again, it's the three of them, this sort of trio that goes out in a basically an M60 charged up minivan. They have to go out into the desert to find Frogtown and find, obviously, this woman that's out there that could be bred with. Now, what's great about it is, again, it's the journey. In some ways, it's kind of a bit of a Mad Max flick, because they're out on the road and they have to go to a bizarre place, like Mad Max does. But this is comedic, and that's what's so fun about it, and really plays to the strengths of Roddy's character. All right, folks, let's get into the cast first before we go any further. All right, folks, let's go through the cast. As we've talked about, of course, the lead is Roddy Piper, playing the character of Sam Hell. He's a man who's lost his daughter in a nuclear war that precedes, obviously, the movie, and hooks up with women extremely frequently after the disaster. He's the main lead and tasked with saving a group of girls from the frog leader Toadie, played by Brian Franks. Now, he goes through a lot of changes through the film itself, becomes more of a heroic character as the film progresses on, and gets to be more like the Roddy that you know from the other films, and of course from his wrestling that you know very well. So basically, someone that's very childish that becomes a little bit more of an adult, and definitely somebody that people can look up to. Sandal Bergman plays the role of Spangle, who's a government scientist who's trying to take care and make sure that Sam successfully rescued the girls and does his job of reinstalling the human race by basically, let's just say, impregnating them to repopulate the Earth itself. She has the control, though, of the device on Sam's groin area. So part of the gags in the movie are that, she can inflict pain on him whenever she chooses at any time in the film by just basically holding her earrings. And of course he goes in extreme pain. Some scenes, it's really funny. Cess Verrill plays Sentinella, and she's kind of like the gun-toting I suppose escort, or in this case, guard to Spangle. And she's the one that has the M60 in this, in the top of the car they're travelling in. And she's quite good. She tries to seduce Sam, but really wants to know, is it true that he's, the one that really has all it takes to get there? William Smith plays Captain Devlin, or Count Sodom, is known. And he's also military personnel in it. He runs into Sam at the start when they capture him. And we see, basically, Devlin trying to interrogate him. Of course, his daughter is one of the many women that Sam Hell sleeps with, and she became pregnant. What's interesting about this character is we see him at the start of the film, being a bit of an antagonist towards, obviously, our protagonist, Sam Hell. But you also see him later in the film as he's behind the scenes, dealing arms and many other things to the frogs of Frogtown, and basically, he's the big bad guy, Count Sodom, under that disguise. So basically, he's trying to do everything behind the scenes, you could say. Rory Calhoun plays Looney Tunes, a crazy old miner who Sam had known before all this. And basically, he is in that scene, in the bar scene in Frogtown, and that's where he sees Sam. We have Nicholas Worth as Bull, Frogtown chief, power-hungry, strong, dislike of humans. He hates everybody that isn't a frog. Basically, he shows this side of himself as he begins to torture Sam. We have Christy Summers who plays the female frog in this, by the name of Arabella, and she's an ally of Sam's. We have Brian Frank playing, of course, Commander Toady, the Frogtown chief. And, of course, his whole idea is to have a group of girls that can make 3 snakes rise. Julius LaFleur plays Squid Lips, a character at the very beginning of the movie that's shooting a man who's going to look for valuables and stuff like that. We have also Lee Garlington playing the briefing officer as well in this. Now, let's have a look at the reception of this. Now, a lot of people have said this is a fun caper, fun adventure film, a comedy. And I think it sort of falls in there. There's kind of almost a Planet of the Apes vibe about this, only just it's a lot cheaper looking than that. There's some here that give it, about, it basically gets about the halfway mark, like a 5 out of 10 or a 2. It feels like a TV movie at times, so, that's going to reflect our marks here. Look, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 on the Hallenbach scale, folks. It's a fun film. It's one that's, it's a quick movie. It's not a long one. It's certainly one that, if you kick back, relax, and enjoy what it is, a low-budget, post-apocalyptic film, and you get, for added bonus, Sandel Bergman from Conan, and, of course, Roddy Piper. You know what you're getting, folks. So go and check it out.